And we are on. Zanet, the
We're
floor is yours.
on. Hey, thanks, Louise. Hey, everyone. I'm sure we're gonna warm up with the audience coming in along this afternoon or evening, depending on which time zone you are at. My name is Zane. I'm the head of marketing at Startup Wise Guys, and this week we are celebrating, and we're celebrating actually fruits of a work of 5 months. So this year in August, we started preparing for our third Baltic Startup Scene report, made together with our long-term strategic partner, AET Digital. And yeah, here we are this week on Monday. We launched it. We already have more than 500 downloads and counting just in the first 24 hours. And I hope more coming in. And today we are gathering here with some awesome experts and founders from this region, from the three Baltic countries, to look at what are the findings that we saw this year in our region, namely in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, for those who might not know what Baltic stands for. And of course, this has been a crazy year. So I think we're going to have a lot of both positive and negative insights from the startup founders that are going to join me for a panel right after the insights about Baltic report. And afterwards, we have invited 3 investors, 2 from Pan-Baltic view, and actually also a lady joining us in from Turkey to extend our Baltic bubble and not to focus only on the startups from this area. And we will be discussing some of the findings, but also benchmarking with regions beyond. Whew. So that's the first part from my side. I will ask Louise in the background to help me with putting on the slides. And we always say our startups not to start with a disclaimer, their pitch, but this is exactly what I'm going to do. Since I will be joined tonight by such cool speakers, I will try to keep it very, very short about the findings and the insights from the report. It is 84 pages. So you can imagine that it's a bit an overwhelming volume of information. And definitely, I highly advise to those of you who haven't yet downloaded it to go to our website, and you can see the link also here on the screen. And after this panel, dive in, look at the things that are interesting for you, and I'm sure you will find something for yourself. But now let's look at some of the insights we still wanted to share with you. And the biggest one of it all, and actually the whole reason why we are coming up with this report, is this very special region. So we call it the small but the mighty. And if I would have to name just one number, I would challenge you with this. So there's 6 million inhabitants, more or less, if we count all 3 Baltic countries together. And guess what? As of this year, there are also 6 startup unicorns. Congratulations, Pipedrive, for joining this family. And funny enough, looks like that's a tradition, as also last year, Vinted, the Lithuanian unicorn, became a unicorn right around the dates when we are launching this report. So if we look at kind of like a broader region and globally, I would say that this is a special region. There's so many startup founders and startups per capita. They're unicorns, and there's a very, very special fundamentals for the success of this region. I'll be very happy to discuss it later also in both of our panels. And if we talk about the number of startups, so we counted and we got the information from all of the startup associations from the Baltic countries, and guess what? As of this summer, so these data are from July, so probably it has even grown. There are more than 2,500 startups. You can see that some of the numbers of the increase, of course, this jump in the number of startups is not only related to new ventures being founded, it's also related to the data gathering methods. And in all countries, there have been some kind of like reshuffling of how this data is gathered. Therefore, some of these jumps are more related to data aggregation. However, still, I would say rather impressive numbers. And if we zoom outside of the bubble, which is one of the things that we're always trying to do, and we feel that it's very important to not compare, oh, Latvia is doing like this, or Estonia is doing like this, and Lithuania like this. But if we take this region together and we benchmark it to the regions that are nearby, and namely in our case, it's Central and Eastern Europe and the Nordics, again, the picture is rather impressive. Last year, we were actually kicking ass even of Nordics. This year, Nordics have like zoomed past us, but let's see how actually 2020 is going to look altogether with all the new recent big rounds coming in. However, one important number that I wanted to point out here is if we look at funding per capita, and if we compare Baltics and Central Eastern Europe, we have 5 times more here in the Baltic startup funding per capita than if we look at the whole broader Central Eastern Europe region. And the only country that is kind of this year has really surprised us when we were crunching the data is Ukraine, who has really sped up in this journey. So definitely a benchmark section is something, if you're interested in these data, to look into. And I said we don't compare, but like, how can you possibly avoid that? And if we would have to have, this kind of sports competition results announcement ceremony, then this is how it would look like. And of course, I think having Estonia there in the first place is an absolutely no-brainer, and nobody expected less. So definitely a country that's a leader in startup funding, in the biggest deals. Also, there is bigger activity in later stage deals, which is something you can definitely peek into our report, and actually also recent Change Ventures report, and we'll touch upon it a little bit later. However, there is a surprise. Already last year in the report, we saw Lithuania picking up. And of course, one thing is, okay, if the benchmark is low, picking up is easy. But what is impressive, that they have kept the growth. So if we look at how the funding compares over time, the Lithuanians are the ones who have really kept this traction going. As in the case of my homeland, Latvia, well, I keep the fingers crossed. On one hand, if we benchmark and compare with the neighbors, we are, unfortunately, right now, we have left our second place 3 years ago and moving now to the third. However, this year is looking very good. And actually, tonight we will be joined by one of the startup founders who have added to the funding rounds and the success in the last quarter of the year. So once the 2020 is wrapped up, let's see. But I think what is important is that what we saw is that while in beginning of 2019, there was a drop, and actually first time there was such a significant drop in the startup funding, the first part of 2020, even with lockdowns and pandemic, was actually looking better. And definitely want to hear more insights from Irjo, from Change Ventures, and from Marius, my colleague, later on in our panel about this. I'm already there. So this year we also did one crazy thing ourselves, and we kind of took it up a notch in the complexity of our work, and we decided to launch a Startup Scene survey to ask the ecosystem how 2020 really has been on the human level, on the perception of things, on the outlook in the future. There's a lot of findings, and you will see them all over our report, especially in the deep dives, so longer reads, but just to give you a few. Of course, no surprise, more than half of people have moved to a hybrid format that they work both from home and office. A disclaimer, this data was gathered in October when there were still kind of, I would say, mild or no lockdowns in the region. However, the interesting thing that we noticed is that people who had the opportunity to work both from home and office or whatever hybrid format said they were happier than the ones who only worked from home. So probably that's one thing this year has taught us, that we still love and like humans and that human touch. When looking at the effect and how people, and especially startup founders, value the effect of crisis and pandemic on them, it was also interesting to see that it's actually not all dark and grim. We could say that it's almost equal ratio of people who said that it's either negative or positive. Of course, there are industries that are severely impacted. But what was really kind of, we could see that the outlook ahead is definitely positive. And that was not only for startup founders, but also for investors. However, as I said, lots to read in the report about Startup Scene survey insights, and we loved to hear these insights ourselves. And I will kind of wrap it up, these insights, with something that we definitely feel very kind of topic close to our hearts at Startup Wise Guys. And if you could see my t-shirt, it says Startup Wise Girls, actually. It's diversity. If we look at this region, then often either it's very biased, only looking at the gender differences, or there's no data at all. So we were really struggling. How do we find out anything about diversity among Baltic founders? And this is where Crunchbase saved the day. They're one of our content partners, and it was amazing that they gave us insights into their data, and we could analyze how diversity actually from different angles, not only gender, is looking. Here on the screen, you can see some of the findings that we saw. And on one hand, there's definitely place for improvement and growth in terms of kind of having this ratio maybe a bit closer to in the middle. It was actually interesting to see that historically, it is Estonia who is leader with the diversity, at least in the gender aspect, so having the majority of female founders. However, if we look at the startups founded recently, so in the last 2 years, it is actually Lithuania taking the lead. And also, interestingly enough, we found out that there is more female business angels in Lithuania. So that's definitely an interesting finding. And we also looked at the education, we looked at age, we looked at languages. So definitely one good read. And to our knowledge, this is the first time diversity has been tackled from a data-driven point of view in this kind of volume about the Baltics. Whew, I'm almost out of breath, and as I said, so there's lots to read in the 84 pages of our report. But right now, I wanted to invite on stage one of the people without whom this year's report would look probably very different, and that is our strategic advisor, Goda. And Goda, welcome. And she joined us specifically for Baltic Report. So finally, we had a dedicated person helping us, and it's an interesting life situation. She's actually calling us in from Berlin, but she's Lithuanian by origin. And when she joined this project, she said, this is a great opportunity for me to actually do something good for my homeland while being away. So Goda, I actually want to hear from you. So what's special about this year's report? Can you give us a sneak peek?
Of course, I think there is a lot to bring up, but I will just try to kind of stick to also the objectives when joining the report, what we were discussing. So first of all, welcome everybody who is joining. To start off, I think I would love to say thank you, first of all, to ET Digital and Startup Wise Guys for even doing this project and actually doing it for third year and successfully. This is where creating opportunity for me to join this project, of course. So to start off with, let's say, three main objectives this year was, first of all, it was that report was growing, and considering all the feedback from already great job last year, one of the objectives were that if we want to do even more and even bigger, we can do it together. So therefore, we established partnerships and we invited companies to join us. And I really want to take opportunity here to thank our amazing partners. I will start with saying thank you to ecosystem partners, which is Accenture Latvia branch and UK Department of International Trade. Very important disclaimer here, and I think all the partners will agree that when we started talking about partnerships, we always approached with first content, saying that, okay, this is our ambition to go with the content. What do you think? And I personally think that it's very important that it makes sense for a partner to be part of this. It makes sense for the project, but also for the audience to receive additional value. So I really believe we accomplished that. And moving forward, our content partners, and Zane already mentioned Crunchbase, which again, I have to say huge thank you, because it allowed us to look into diversity, which again, Startup Wise Guys girl, I completely agree, and I'm very, very blessed that we were able to execute this part, and as well Crunchbase was incremental help with startups to watch. Change Ventures, we will have Change Ventures on the panel later on with investors, so I'm sure they will dive into more, but it was fantastic to work together on the funding data, calibrating, and basically bringing the value across the board together. And last but not least, we also attracted all three organizations from Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And I think it's very, very important that we have them as well here. And as Anna also mentioned, they were incremental with visa data. And I really, really invite everyone who is outside of the Baltics to look into what this region is doing on that front. So this is first objectives to, if we want to grow this project, we can grow it together. And I'm very happy that we were able to accomplish that and that these partners joined us on the journey. Our second objective, which you already got a sneak preview of the insight, was to involve audience. So historically, we look at the historical data, we analyze that. And as Anna said, we really wanted to involve startups, investors, and ecosystem partners and basically hear from you, how do you feel? So please check out the report. We were challenged on our assumptions, which I think is fantastic. Last but not least objective, startups to watch. So as you've probably seen everywhere, 150 startups which are listed. We are very, very proud of, and we congratulations to all the startups. It was huge work, but to give you another number that thanks to also Crunchbase, we actually analyzed 477. So our database grew significantly and we were able to get way more information. And I also really encourage you to download the digital version, basically, which you can analyze yourself. So again, thank you all the partners. Thank you also more than 70 contributors to the report, experts, industry experts. It was an amazing journey and I'm very proud of what we were able to accomplish. So please download, check it out, read it during Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we should have like champagne in the background right now above Goddess head. We will do it behind the scenes, but also to add on this, definitely 2 more thank yous goes out to people who made it sound nice and to people who made it look nice. And definitely huge thumbs up to our designer, Liga Felta. She's with us the 2nd year and all of the good looks and graphs, so everything is thanks to her. I hope she's enjoying some deserved rest after really a marathon with us. And also 3rd year in a row. So ever since the inception of this report, we are working together with the True 6 agency, and specifically thanks to Julia Gifford, who have been also the challengers, sometimes even towards us, and saying, "Hey, let's make it even better." So right now, I would say let's kind of close that part. You see the link. Thank you, Gora, and big thumbs up on your side. I will let you sneak back in the backstage of this panel and. Yeah, so here's the link, and also on our website you will find the startups to watch list. And as Gode mentioned, this year not only we have kind of gotten through even bigger volume, but we actually have created a digital asset. So for anybody out there who's an investor or generally likes to kind of do their own things with data, so we have an Airtable database with actually more information about startups. And actually, the startups that I will now invite over to join me for a panel are, of course, also from this list. And Louise, I will ask you in the background to start adding my panelists here, and I will introduce them in the meantime. So I will take a quick breath, like, We parked the report, and today we have 3 amazing founders calling in, each from one Baltic country. So we have nice pan-Baltic representation. All of them are actually listed as very well-performing startups on our list, and 2 of them are also our alumni. I hope Giraffe 360 was also with us, but okay, maybe later when we have our scale-up program. And I will quickly introduce you, and then then we're going to go through some questions that I have prepared. But audience, very important message to you. We actually can receive and see your comments. So either if you're watching on our Facebook Live or on YouTube, if you write things there, it actually comes into our studio so we can address it. There will be no Q&A after the panel. So if you want to ask something, just kind of drop it in the comments and we will incorporate it in the discussion. But without further ado, so super nice to have you guys. I wish we had more ladies here. We'll make it sure next time, but still 3 amazing guys. And I'll start with Laimonas. Laimonas is one of our alumni, actually relatively recent. You're calling in, I assume, from Vilnius, or not?
Yes. Greetings from Vilnius.
Awesome. How are you doing? By the way, I heard the lockdown is getting stronger.
Yeah, the lockdown is getting as strict as possible, so pretty empty on the streets. And I will tell more about the delivery side of business a bit later on. It's an interesting period.
Yeah, so actually to add on that, Laimonas represents ZITICITY, and their company is actually probably benefiting in a way from, at least in the business side of this situation, as they're working in delivery and are actually, I guess, one of the only ones who can deliver packages within 1 hour in the Baltics, right?
Like speed no longer is a key angle. We want to make it a mass market product, so we are more working on how to make it really affordable. And
okay.
Yeah.
So some changes in the positioning probably impacted by this year. Very curious to hear about that. Then we have Haver here, I assume calling in from Tallinn.
Yep. Hi everyone, yeah, from Tallinn.
How are things in Tallinn?
Well, quieter than usual. So because again, the numbers of COVID cases are going up, and then people are less out. So it's quieter.
Yeah, well, you were the most relaxed ones, I think, till maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago, right? At least my colleagues were still chilling.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also in your case, so you are working actually in an industry that probably has a lot of benefits for people being remote and not being able to see each other. And you have pivoted quite a lot since the inception of Wolf 3D, right? I still remember when I joined Startup Wise, guys, I was very curious about these eggs things that were developed, which I assume are, I think, Timur, you were yourself sharing at the Getaway that they don't exist anymore, right? Right. So maybe a little quick insight of what the Wolf 3D does.
Right. So actually, last Friday we celebrated our 7th birthday. So yeah, we have pivoted a lot and done a lot of different things over the years. But actually, what we do is we create personal avatars for gaming and VR applications, and we have a platform named Ready Player Me, which enables people to create their avatar and use that avatar across different applications. Yeah, and in gaming VR applications most specifically.
I remember that, I think right when the lockdown started in spring, you managed to nail some kind of big project, and I was like, whoa, what a timing.
Yeah, exactly. So we actually launched the Ready Player Me just in the beginning of the pandemic, and then yeah, now we have been diligently working on that throughout the whole year, and then it's going really well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See. Somehow I only realized when I had to start the panel today. I guess I have gathered all industries that are actually in some ways will definitely give us a positive outlook. I guess the same is with you, Mikus. So you're also working with an interesting mix of real estate, but also kind of remote things, and you actually managed to nail also an investment recently. So tell us a little bit more about what your company does.
Yeah, hey everyone, thanks for inviting me. So Giraffe 360, it's been an interesting year, I think, globally for all of us. We are building a technology that enables simple property 3D scans. So in essence, we build cameras, ship them to real estate companies, they press a button and get lots of digital contents. And I think digital has been pushed with the lockdowns. I think pandemic doesn't change anything. It's the lockdowns that push companies to think about their virtual communication, and we have seen some positive outlooks there.
Cool, and I think I will actually ask you to kind of elaborate on what you were sharing already now. And since Laimonas, I didn't allow you to pitch your business, maybe you can start with the first one. And I am curious to hear how 2020 has been, both for your company, but also what is something that you see in the industry. And yours is the one I think like straightforward, kind of beneficial official area, at least as people needed to deliver things and not touch other humans.
Mm-hmm. So like as you mentioned, we started off by basically offering a fast premium delivery service, delivering at 42 minutes e-commerce things and food faster. But during the first COVID wave, we understood that we can provide a lot more value for e-commerce companies and like not just premium deliveries, because when first lockdown was introduced, we basically had our empty offices, and we started to use them as an urban hubs for batching multiple packages from lots of e-shops in a city. And that model allowed us to reduce delivery fees by 3 times, meaning like right now, ZITICITY option is cheaper in the checkouts of our merchants, and as well faster, 2-3 days compared to traditional couriers. And like right now, after first COVID wave, we are betting on this trend of urban hubs. So like we are opening a lot of like mini warehouses in a city near neighborhoods where most people are living, and like we are aggregating lots of packages into those facilities, and creating like really optimized fast last mile for couriers that are typically doing food delivery orders at Bolt Food, and etc. So instead of delivering food, they can like deliver e-commerce purchases and earn a bit more per hour. So and like the overall landscape is so like it looks like that we may be lucky in this type of environment, but like in reality it's really tough. You need to like ensure safety of all of your courier partners, of all of your employees that are dealing with those packages directly, with all merchants and recipients that are waiting for packages. You need to facilitate those transactions as contactless as possible, and handle as well and build the team remotely. So like during the last half year, our team grew from 15 employees to 52 right now, and like mostly it's done online, and like we have not met in person yet. So and this is, and we have never did it in the past. Like there is no textbook which to read how to make it right. So like like we need to learn that part as well. We have a big demand that we need to deal with, and it's like a lot of pressure to all of the systems. So it's pretty intense. But like of course in a positive way. So in this year we grew 8 times compared to last year, and right now operating in Lithuania, France, and Estonia.
Yeah, I can totally relate to you in terms of hiring people. We have also a Startup Wise Guys team grew quite a lot since September, and it was so weird when you realized that if a person would just come in the office, you would be like, "Hey, you're the new employee. Let's do things around it." But now you have to, exactly, kind of develop entirely new processes, and I also feel that you have to kind of dedicate a lot of extra kind of time to the human relationships here. Was there something kind of you said about the safety, for example, and also kind of restructuring how you work? Maybe what was some kind of like difficult step that you have added or in your business, or something that kind of has really changed this year?
Well, like a lot. So we looked at every interaction that was happening live, and we tried to make it like online and remote. So at the beginning we were doing mass courier onboarding sessions. Like you would invite 20 couriers to a meeting room, you would pitch bright future and onboard them later on. So we found ways how to do this everything online. So we do like Zoom sessions, online tests to couriers, and etc. As well, we need to create processes and technology to make sure like proof of delivery in a contactless manner. So like typically it was, like a signature, but like you no longer can take a signature, and you need to build creative ways how to make it happen, how to verify identities, and like so I would say like a lot of such like small details that we typically happens in person. Like right now, like it's as much remote as possible, and like we are moving physical goods throughout the city, so like you cannot teleport them. So definitely someone needs to pick it up, and like it's our part to ensure like the maximum safety for courier fleet. So like we are supporting them with all of the protective equipment, and as well for the team that it's working in urban hubs in not breaking. And like because like this year, especially like right now, as the most strict lockdowns are introduced, basically like everyone has the opportunity to save Christmas, because it's a fact that not all Christmas purchases will be delivered on time. Like it's a fact. Like all logistics systems worldwide are crashing.
Looks like we lost Laimonas through internet. Do you still hear me? Yeah, okay. So he's maybe saving Christmas right now, and I was just watching with my kids Christmas movies, and I was like, I could imagine that they actually really feel a little bit like elves or Santa Clauses. And I know that in Latvia, for example, the whole package delivery system is crashing to a level where people are actually sharing on social media, kind of like, hey, take out your packages so other packages can be delivered. I will kind of switch while Laimonas gets back to us. I will get switch to Javier. And actually, I remember that when first lockdown started, a lot of people were saying, okay, if there's a time for VR, it's now. Like if VR could have proved that it's the technology of the future, then this is the year. So how was the year for you, and how do you see the industry?
Exactly, those people were very right in that sense, because what we have seen is essentially that the pandemic or the COVID health scare, so to say, it accelerated the adoption of VR massively. And just to kind of bring you like an example of that, so as I briefly mentioned, that we started this kind of web-based like Ready Player Me avatar platform for VR and games in the beginning of the year. We just like we generated the idea in the beginning of the year before the pandemic, and then started like building it. So we essentially went from like kind of zero or from an idea to an actual product. And actually just yesterday when we made this or like reviewed the year, we actually now have signed like 24 partners to that platform. Most of them are active in the kind of VR like meeting and collaboration space. So yeah, we see a lot of like developers and companies trying to like create some kind of VR meeting applications and then collaboration applications, and they all need avatars there, because that's the only way you can have like people in 3D space, and then we are there for them to provide that. Also from the perspective of like gaming, obviously when people are like locked down in their homes, they can't go out and then like enjoy the usual forms of entertainment like cinema or going to a restaurant with friends. So a lot of people like resorted to gaming, and also like obviously gaming has like seen a lot of like uptake during the pandemic also, and especially as gaming is
totally.
Yeah, especially as gaming is the kind of the lowest or the cheapest form of entertainment actually. when you
Yes, I was
compare it to-
talking to my teenage niece who was like, you know what? I was in a concert, and I was like, how could you go to a concert in a lockdown? There was the Fortnite concert, and then she was showing me these videos, and for me, not being from her age group, it was hard to believe. But on the other hand, it makes so much sense, and definitely, I would say that since you are on the market already for a long time, this probably was a good kind of moment for you to actually strike with what you have been building for a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So maybe it's not like nice to say, but from the business perspective, it was a very good thing what happened in the world, and we at Wolf 3D think that the world has, like, after this pandemic, has changed in a way that will be there, and will be like taking off from that pandemic.
Yeah, but I was about to ask you that, and you already answered that. I was actually wondering kind of how the future is going to look like. It's something that we saw very interesting, as we are used to participate in a lot of tech events. And actually, we were talking to the apps who previously provided matchmaking, for example, Talk or ImpromptMe is our alumni startup, and not only them. And they said, yeah, in April, it seemed like the world has ended for them, but now actually majority of them have actually grown and radically changed their kind of their business models and focus on these entirely virtual events. And who would have known, right? So it's probably the secret is in adapting. Okay, we have Laimonas back, but I will switch to Mikus now, as he has been patiently waiting for us to hear out. So Mikus, how is your industry looking? And since you said you actually ship real devices, so do you also face similar issues with safety or something like Laimonas was talking, or that doesn't really impact your business?
It impacts, and there's probably, it's a mixed feeling this whole year. There's areas, like I think, like Haver mentioned, there are areas in business in demand which is going up, but there's also like all the other problems that goes with it. So, but like from our clients' perspective, like I can give a quick story how we saw the market changed. Last year, December 2019, we released a new function which is called remote viewing, which is literally a virtual tour and a video call. You can walk through the property on a video call. And I sent it to our top customers, and they said, oh, how cool it is, but yeah, it's nice, but nobody even followed that. And when the first lockdown was announced, on that, it was I'm based in London, so it was announced on Friday. As I straight away got like 10 emails from our clients. Hey, you showed me that function like a few months ago. Can we use them? I'm like, it's on your dashboard. Just press the launch remote viewing button. And then, so we saw that our clients went remotely, like real estate business that's like super physical, but like sales and rentals went on. We have customers that didn't lost any volume of sales because people still want to move, people still need to expand or change their house, and family situations changing, etc. So on the clients end, we saw activity bigger than ever. Also on just the use of the cameras. The problem was during the lockdowns, actually getting to the properties. So it was kind of with a lots of spikes. When they had a time to go out, they went out and scanned everything they have, and then they just used the content massively. So, but internally, obviously, like in Riga, where we do the tech, in Liepāja, where we have the processing team, that we were not set up to kind of work remotely. Like we needed to kind of implement a lot of systems to make it easier to process the projects, and which probably was a complicated bit on our end. But in terms of the sales, like we previously were focusing on the remote sales on the Zoom calls, and we did 80% of our deals on the video calls, and this just jumped to 99% deals on the video calls. So we just saw like we became more efficient. So we had our best selling months to the lockdowns. We just became more efficient, more focused, more data driven, less coffee, less the human stuff, more this is the task, let's get it done. Yeah,
plus the human stuff sounds also as a very challenging thing. Cool. I will. I don't see much of comments coming in, so I'm reminding people that you can ask questions to our panelists, and you should ask them now because we're soon wrapping up with the founders panel and switching to investors. Well, we still have some of the attention. I wanted to ask, as most of you already mentioned, you have also markets that are further away from the Baltics. So in case of ZITICITY, you were, I guess, entering France, right, when the first lockdown started. Mikus, you already mentioned London and UK, and however, in your case, it's US, right? So how has
US and the EU,
it's kind of whole Europe. Yeah, I mentioned US because it's kind of like feels that it's worlds apart right now with everything that's happening there. So, in a random order, could you share how has been this work with these more remote markets, and maybe what were the challenges that you saw that you didn't expect with having the markets further away, and suddenly, for example, not being able to travel?
I can maybe from
so
my
maybe,
end.
Okay. Yeah,
sorry,
Mikus,
go on, Laimonas.
Good to do.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Thanks, Laimonas. From my end, our sales is based in London, so for us working with the UK's market was nothing changed, but I think the whole world got closer. We expanded to 26 countries during the lockdowns. We were probably in like 15, 16 before. And now I think the world is closer. You're further away from your immediate team, from immediate clients, but it's no problem to do a call with a Japan, US, or Dubai, and everybody just jumps on a video call. So I think there's a massive advantage when world is actually more open right now than it was before, in terms of the communication, just because that physical presence is not possible. So I think that's a massive advantage, and we have definitely used it to grow our international coverage, not only like the local one.
Right. I actually would like to share a different side of the same story, or the same coin, if you may. So for us, especially in the gaming market, so you have the large gaming companies and the large publishers, and getting your foot between the door with them, it's pretty complicated sometimes. And then one of the things that worked for us pretty well before the lockdowns and travel restrictions was always conferences, and then going where your clients are, so meaning Silicon Valley mostly, or the East Coast in US. So that was taken away from us now, and in the beginning it was a lot of not a lot, but it was a challenge to kind of rebalance, or kind of find a way how to kind of go forward from this situation. But that's specifically for the gaming companies and very large companies. When we're speaking about VR companies, who are, it's quite a small market yet, but they're more approachable from a distance than large corporations are. So yeah, just to bring my kind of view into that question.
Cool, thanks. And Laimonas, in your case?
Yeah, so maybe key learning on and experience from the French market. So it's an interesting and tough market from hiring perspective. The notice period is super long. It's 3 months. So for us, it takes a while to build a local team. And once we we already had an initial local team, and once the first lockdown was introduced, so people, they're working basically remotely from their home, and we understood that there is no purpose actually to be in Paris, one of the most expensive cities worldwide. So we started to build up our French team based in Vilnius. There are a lot of French speakers. We unlocked ways also how to hire non from European Union countries. So we have people coming in from Nigeria, Tunis, and Democratic Republic of Congo. So a lot of nationalities joined our headquarters in Vilnius that can do business in France. And right now, so in our French team, we have 10 people, and 8 of them are based in Vilnius, and only 2 in France. So like you can do business remotely, even like the physical one, like physical transactions of delivering goods. You can set those deals remotely, and this is to the positive side. Like continuing forward, of course, like we'll invest more into having boots on the ground, but like right now, in the meantime, it works really, really, really well.
Yeah, there's a reason why we love that Lithuanians are true life hackers. So you can't hire people in Paris, you hire them in Africa.
Yeah.
Cool. cool insights. Anything else, Javier or Mikus, you wanted to kind of add into this mix of the geographic spectrum? I actually didn't know that Giraffe 360 has something in Liepāja, which is very interesting. As a report found out that the majority of all the activities is concentrated in capitals. And for those who don't know, Liepāja is a beautiful town in Latvia on the west coast by the sea. What are you doing in Liepāja?
I can expand on that. In Liepāja, we actually have the biggest office by just the size. So we have a file processing team, IT team. So I myself from that part of the Latvia, and so we always kind of wanted one office outside of Riga. And it's naturally grown. So when you're servicing customers worldwide, it actually doesn't matter where like the physical location for one or the other office is not that important anymore.
That's cool. All right, I will jump to the last question that I have from my side. And while you were laughing about less human interaction, less human touch as being also a good thing, maybe on the focus of the business and getting things in order, I still wanted to ask, what has been the impact of this year for your team, but especially to you as leaders in your company? What were maybe the biggest challenges or something you never expected you would find yourself in that place?
Right.
Javier, I see you're unmuted, so you start.
Okay. So I can start on that. So we made the decision to go fully remote very early on in the beginning of the year, and as we were just like starting to hire when the pandemic hit, everybody who we hired were like remote. So I think like we adapted to fully remote like quite fast, because we aren't that big of a team yet, so it's like 18 people at the moment. However, still like what was maybe hard to come grasp with in the beginning was that the like as a humans we want some sort of like human connection, and then being used to some kind of like team events and then actually meeting physically and in person, and now the challenge of trying to like kind of learn to do the same kind of things, same objective in a virtual setting, that like gave a lot of like awkward moments in the beginning. However, I think like now everybody has more or less gotten used to it, and then it's going like better. Also, I think like there's been some talk about kind of the mental health issues regarding like regarding and around the pandemic itself. So this has like looking at the like people I know and then people we are working with, there has been issues like that like come from the pandemic itself. So that's been challenged to as being a manager or managing a team of people.
That's definitely was already a topic that was kind of surfacing in the tech scene even
Right.
without pandemic. And I think right now, as we were also talking, like everybody has their own burden. I had 2 kids in homeschooling in spring along with work, which was more intense than ever. But I was wondering, am I in a tougher situation dealing with them, or actually people who are locked away alone and maybe they have a cat to talk to for an extension of a month or 2, right? So that's definitely, and I think that at least we feel in our team that if in spring spring, you were more kind of like almost curious about how it's going to be, and you felt like, oh, it's going to be a month, and then it will okay, maybe 2, but we will be back to normal. Then I think right now everybody is getting really a lot more tired, and the shit has really piled up in the system.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so much, sometimes tension or friction or some kind of like stupid conflict I haven't witnessed for a long time. And I'm not talking only about my team, but I feel there's this kind of electricity buzzing in the air. Okay, Laimonas, how about you?
So going remote is definitely a challenge, and we are learning a lot as we go, and I would love to have maybe a textbook, or maybe I wouldn't love to have a textbook. It's more interesting to learn as it happens. Like I would highlight that onboarding employees is in remote environment. It's like makes or breaks the game, and in our case we we don't. I would say we need to improve in a way we onboard new people. Like right now, we are lucky to get super autonomous people to the team that are able to onboard themselves, basically. But it might be the case that you are joining as a first day in the company. You might not get your laptop on time, and similar things may arise. So we are like. And I think this is also like important for candidates to highlight this skill when trying to get apply for a jobs. Like in this type of environment, you really want to work with people that are able to manage themselves, they are autonomous and self-disciplined. So this is like super important. And as an organization, we are growing stronger, and every new person that is joining is already getting better and better version of what it can be.
Yeah, that's actually a good way also to say, kind of maybe to those who are just thinking about entering the startup scene as employees, that I assume that it goes for any startup, that actually people who can kind of put their own agenda, get their shit together, and just execute is probably like a dream employee. And I think for those who really want this constant micromanagement and human touch and somebody to always tell them what to do, probably it's not the right time and not the right area, at least in the conditions right now to enter. Cool, thanks for sharing. And Mikus, so how has been for you personally or for your team this year? Kind of maybe what has been something difficult to deal with?
I will be minority in this. Sorry, I will be minority on this one. I actually have enjoyed the whole ride. We set up a good habits. We've become more efficient. But I think it comes down to the size of the city. Like London, average time to get to the office is 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So the team loses a lot of just energy going back and forth to the office. And I think in Baltics, where we live in such kind of high life quality standards, there's no traffic jam, whatever you say, guys, and stuff. You don't feel it, but like in London, I don't think we're ever gonna go back to 5 days in the office. It's max 2 or 3, and I think it changes companies' approach and culture from that perspective. I think Laimonas, what you mentioned about discipline, like it comes into the hiring. If you're not ready to go on with the tasks, kind of just work on the tasks, and you need that kind of team buzz to go on with your responsibilities, then it's really hard to work in this sort of environments. And like I personally became like really efficient, lots of meetings, can get lots of things done. Nobody can drag in the office. So I bought a mic, and I don't want to go back to all those meetings. I'm not meeting many people in real life anymore. So I'm kind of doubling down on all these things. So, but we want to use, as we go, we want to use office more as a way to build that human relationship. So in the summer, when we had a bit, the lockdowns were eased and we could meet in the office, we then took a long lunch breaks. We ordered pizzas and we sat down more. So instead of just sitting down and doing our tasks, we more focused then on, okay, let's spend some more time together. So when we were at home, we get on with the days, and And then the start of the lockdowns, I think one good thing, we introduced good habits, which I kind of mentioned, is every morning we have 9 a.m. check-in call. It's a slight banter. Brits are good with that. It kind of opens up the day. We kind of let's go on, and we just try to focus on the positives of it. You can get faster maybe your work done, and you don't have to sit till like 6 or 7 or 8 p.m. and yeah, that's kind of there's positives in that. So I'm a bit optimistic.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's all negative. And my friends who know that I'm extreme extrovert and people were laughing about me when I said I have found my internal introvert. And actually, I was really kind of enjoying not to have fear of missing out on things this summer, because normally, you have these 10 festivals on the same weekend, and then you have all the friends' birthday parties and everything. And now you were just kind of like, hey, it's just not happening. We are smoothly moving actually to our second part of our panel with investors, and actually we have Dilek here with us. She's our panelist in the next one, but she had a really cool question to ask you guys. So we are moving her in the studio, and Dilek, the floor is yours.
I'm lucky one to have a question for you. Actually, Mike, you are lucky one at the process. So if you all would go back to like February, March, when everything started, what would you tell yourself?
It's all going to work
out. Sorry, Howard, do you want to go on?
No, I just said that only like a one-liner that everything is going to work out. That's what I would say to myself in March, and it kind of did. so yeah.
Perfect.
From my end, because at first everybody was really focused on when we're going to get back to. I think there were companies who are really smart. I think the big tech organizations, Microsoft and Twitter, back in spring announced 2020 we're going to work from home, and somebody even announced mid 2021. I'm like why? Or like it felt like, so I was like, no, this is the new normal. Instead of trying to, this is temporary, and then kind of let's survive through. But like let's settle in and let's make the best out of this. So just like extend the timeline, which is always a challenge for a startup. We want everything happen quickly. So that would be my advice to me and my team.
That's good.
And mine would be like very, very concrete. So increase customer support team 2 times and courier supply 3 times. Like it's crazy. We need every possible person to join ZITICITY right now. So if you have free time and you're in Baltics or France, please join.
No, yeah, that's the moment we're hiring. Awesome. I think on this note, I will say a huge thank you to Mikus, Haver, and Laimonas for joining us. Thank you also for being very honest about how things have been. It's so cool to see those insights from you, and also hear about the industries where you're represented. And big thumbs up on what you have achieved. And I think specifically what I for me, the learning listening to you is that it's all about adapting and definitely about kind of seeing the clarity of this situation and just kind of not living in an illusion, be it about temporarity of this situation or about kind of how we can kind of work around it, but just kind of like getting hands dirty and getting things done. So awesome. Have a nice evening. We will slowly move you out of the studio. Dilek is already here to join us for the next panel. And we will be joined by two lovely gentlemen as well. So Mario Sirio, Louise is onboarding you here. Aha, so we have everyone. Hey, so I hope everybody has a little bit of kind of like patience and you have some water or other nutrition and drinks nearby. We still have a second part of this panel and this session to go. And this one's probably going to be more serious and more maybe technical, but definitely I think more also insightful. So I have 3 amazing people here to join me, and you already saw Dilek, and I think this is very interesting. Not only to have a female investor with us, which is always we are always up for diversity, but also your region where you're coming from. So I assume you're probably calling in from Turkey. Would you mind giving us a quick just intro, who you are and where you're from today?
Sure. I'm calling from Istanbul, actually. But if it wasn't COVID, I would be living up in the air. I always say I live on either Turkish Airlines or Lufthansa when it's normal time. I'm co-founder of ScaleX Ventures. I'm a venturepreneur myself. The fund is so new. It's day and night working like an entrepreneur, like growing the team, finding amazing entrepreneurs, helping them out, growing the fund. So where I'm coming from, I'm an engineer with an MBA, an entrepreneur. Then I worked at Accenture like a management consultant. And the way that I got into startups is actually when Groupon was growing. I was a director at Groupon, and I fell in love with how the teams and the companies growing. And I said, scaling is one of the important things to grow the companies and for success. And since then, now I'm a guest lecturer at Stanford. I'm a jury member, Horizon 2020 EIC fund. And I've been investing for the last 3-4 years, both my own money as an angel and getting into companies and helping them to grow globally. Even though I'm calling from here, I always help companies to land in US or the East, like Singapore or Japan. Yeah, that's us.
Awesome. And I'm happy that you at least maybe in future you will be able to call in from a plane as well, but at least you're nicely seated with the books right now. And the next one I wanted to introduce Irio. He's from Change Ventures. I see you today in red, so you're aligning with the colors, right?
I thought that would be the smart thing to do, look like the home team, right?
Awesome. Well, in a way you are, as already mentioned in our intro, and for those who didn't hear, Change Ventures also came up this year with a pretty awesome report about the Baltic startup funding. So specifically looking a lot deeper in deals and valuations and the fluctuations and everything. And we were collaborating, and also some of data from Change Ventures report can be found in ours. And also we helped calibrate yours. So definitely I'll be very curious to hear deeper insights about what you found and maybe what was something that you noticed. But maybe a quick pitch about Change Ventures, as you're also, like us, the only pan-Baltic ones here.
Well, yes, we invest in ambitious Baltic founders in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. We just hired somebody in Lithuania. So we, in fact, have really boots on the ground people actually in every country that can speak to every founder in their home language, right? And meet with them in person and really work and provide support in every Baltic country. And that's all the investments we do because we really focus on Baltic founders. Now, that doesn't mean just companies in the Baltics. In fact, a lot of our companies are operating outside of the Baltics. You know, Planet 42 is mainly in South Africa. If we look at Ask Robin, they're doing business in Mexico. We have other companies. You know, that's the nature of the Baltics. We have almost no home market, so all the startups are born global. And that's good news because that sets them up for success, often ahead of their peers from other markets like Poland or Germany, where you can stay for a very long time just in the local language, in the local market, and not think about expansion or really scaling internationally. So in that way, I think we have fantastic founders that from the beginning are doing very interesting projects and immediately going international. And I'm excited to be here and to talk about pre-seed and seed companies and their outlooks for next year as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and definitely that's something that we see as well, that the bigger the region and the market is, the longer the companies are kind of, nurtured in their home markets and maybe not kind of fighting and not with that much hunger and desire to grow. And as the third one, I'm super happy to have Marius here. Marius is also wearing red because he is from our team and he is representing Lithuania. So also we are nicely balanced with having all three Baltic representatives and Dilek from Turkey Turkey here. And actually, Marius has become a very integral and important part of this year's report, even though his job is actually a little bit different. So he's chasing our portfolio for reporting and also giving them ongoing advice in our aftercare program as portfolio principal. He jumped on board with me, with Goda, with Louise, also to develop the report better on the data side. So if somebody knows everything about the data on our report, that's actually Marius, not me. And so Marius, I wanted to kind of give floor to you. You can still pitch about yourself if I haven't already covered, but I also wanted to give the floor for you to start a little bit about this report, kind of how did you feel being part of it, and how do you see it's the reason and the value of it?
Yes, thank you, Zane. Thank you, Dilek. Thank you, Ijo. Probably that's why the numbers in the Baltics get up because of you. Yes, a little bit about me. Just Zane told me I'm portfolio principal at Startup Wise Guys. I joined a year ago, and this year was a very interesting year, not only for just Startup Wise Guys, but as well for our ecosystem, and working with all our portfolio, 200 companies, but as well including all the ecosystem around us. So I'm in the office yet. It's the last day in the office, sadly. Transitioned fully at home for the next probably 40, 50 days. And we are running the current accelerator FinTech 4 here in Vilnius in these premises, but as well full transition online. And yes, talking more about this report. So probably we have some things to tell here. So we are starting to discuss there in the summer about how it looked like, what are you going to focus, what the numbers and so on, and strongly to work on this in the September, and then basically till the end of the day. And then my biggest foundation was the speed. How fast is the data changing in the Baltics, in CE region, in the Nordics, and when you're trying to find all the speed, how to put it in one place and how not to miss the data is the one foundation. The challenge that was very surprising for us, it was how to align the data. I know that the Change Ventures were doing this for several years. The Startup Wise Guys doing several years. We have the partners like the Crunchbase, the Enterprise Lithuania, the Enterprise Estonia, and there is some data as well. This well-known public Excel spreadsheets, the community sharing, like the rounds and so on. But when it comes to one place, aligning this data, it became a challenge. And then you need to communicate with the startups around the round sizes. Then you need to communicate with the VCs. And it's not on the Baltics. When you're doing this, merge and alignment with the CE region, with the Nordic region, it was really challenging. And as well, for me personally and for the team, the findings that we found, for example, we'd probably never dive deeper into like Romania ecosystem to understand, their ecosystem, the unicorns now, decacorn, right? And then how it's impact around it, as well getting back to a Baltics here. So it was really, really interesting job. And probably my even next question to Irjo would be, I was pretty surprised by working this on this year Baltic report, not only because what I met on data perspective, but probably because that no one before took this role. So my question would be, I know that Change Ventures invested a lot of resource and time and personal time by collecting and grabbing the data. So my question is, how historically no one grabbed this role by building this kind of report? And why this report is important, like for local investors, for abroad investors, for the startups, for the ecosystem, for the community. So basically the first step, for first question for you, Irjo.
Okay, I think that's a great question. And we were glad to sort of lead the effort in bringing this transparency to the market, because just like we did with our investment documents, by going to essentially open source, by saying, look, we're going to adopt the Startup Estonia forms that are available at any time to everyone, just go download them, right? Just like that made it easier for founders to see what they're going to be signing, what these documents look like. Just as important, maybe even more important, it was to get this kind of valuation data, deal data, how much of a shareholding do I have to give up in pre-seed? What about seed? How do I actually craft my cap table so that by the time I get to A, there's still something left, to bring in the investors? And that kind of data, even we as a fund can't really afford to pay, 6,000, 7,000, 9,000 euro yearly fees to these large platforms to have access to that data, much less, a startup whose business it isn't, to be constantly raising funds. They should be doing their startup business. So for them, it was very obfuscated. Well, what are the valuations? I read a story on TechCrunch, says one thing, there's something else in a local newspaper. People are like, oh my God, everybody's a millionaire. And you have these data points that are way out there and you're not sure what's an outlier, what's reality. And so we thought it was vital to bring that transparency to the market. So we leveled the playing field between the investors and the founders, and everybody's looking at the same numbers, right? And as to the second part of your question, why is it hasn't been done before? I think it's because, and you kind of pointed out in your question, I think already the truth of the matter, it's pretty difficult to delineate exactly what's pre-seed, what's seed. According to whom, right? Are we going by number of employees? Are we going by round size? Are we going by what the startup called it themselves? People name one thing, another thing. And then on top of that, what's a Baltic company, right? Is TransferWise a Baltic company? Do we go by headquarters? Do we go by, a number of employees? Do we go by where the founders are from? And that was another thing that we wanted to bring a little bit of clarity to, is try to really gather everything that's related to the Baltics. So that way we're catching in the report also the future TransferWises, the future Monies, the future, Vinted, all of these kinds of companies that maybe from the very beginning are doing a lot of business elsewhere. Maybe even have their headquarters or their country of registration elsewhere, but are Baltic founders. They're from here. A lot of the time they have their back office here or they have their IP here. So there's a lot of still connection to the Baltics, but maybe it's going down in the data and in the databases as, I don't know, a German startup or something. So that's kind of a long answer. I hope that brought clarity, though.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think actually when we were looking at the benchmarking data for our report, we realized that we might still complain all the time that we are still struggling with the data here, but actually in some areas we couldn't even chase any reasonable trust for the data. And actually I wanted to throw the ball towards Dilek and ask you how maybe what's the reality that you see in the areas where you either travel or invest. How do you feel about the data? Is it available? Is it sufficient? Do you see the same issues that Irjo and Marius already touched upon?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. By the way, congratulations on Change Ventures efforts. I love open source term sheet. I love the data. I think these kind of things are going to make the ecosystem. So for myself, starting from Turkey, but now I want to invest in Central Eastern Europe. I already did 2 investments and the deals came through like our networks in Silicon Valley, which is funny. I'm much closer, so I want to go to Romania, Bulgaria, and see all of the startups. I think that's really important. And when I read your report, I fell in love with it. I think this is critical because it's going to bring more money, more clarity. As Yor said, the playing field is going to be aligned at the end of the day. So where I'm sitting at, I think when you look at this kind of data, I think two big customers who are paying for it, the government agencies or the corporates. If you don't have both of them, I think it's going to be hard to establish those data sets. In this case, I think Change Ventures made an amazing effort and StartupWise guys made it happen. But where I'm sitting at, I'm buying all the databases, to be honest, and sorting them out, trying to reach them out, like hiring a bunch of smart people to go through the companies. Otherwise, it's really hard at this part of the world. But I think it's getting better comparing to last year, even the year before.
Definitely interesting to hear that. And I wanted to jump already with one question that is really, really kind of bothering me. So I want to hear your opinion on that. And when the lockdown started in spring, we at Wise Guys organized a panel with VCs, and we organized it for our portfolio to basically ask VCs how they see fundraising in that particular moment. So it was spring, and how do they think this year kind of is going to evolve, and also what startups should be taking into account. And there was one unison kind of opinion, and those were VCs both from the Baltics but also abroad from in Europe. They all said the valuations will go down. So that was kind of, I think, a clear expectation. It's kind of like a no-brainer, right? That should happen that way. However, and that is seen more in Change Ventures report, we see that's actually not the case, at least in the Baltics. So I wanted to hear your opinion, kind of first, kind of why is that? And also definitely, like, again, on your side, the role of the challenger of outside of the Baltic bubble. Do you see the same trends on your side? Irjo, maybe you could start.
Sure. I think there was an expectation that there's going to be a big dip, actually. And when I talked to my colleagues, everybody was pretty worried. What's going to be the effect on the market? How big a trough is this crisis going to leave? But the statistics show that really things weren't that bad. I mean, there was a little bit, you can see the effects of COVID. One place where it was really obvious in our report, because we were looking at both pre-seed and seed. You guys are really focused on the pre-seed. But for the seed round investments, and if looking at MRR or recurring revenue numbers, they were substantially higher than in years previous, where it's been steady basically for a seed round, a startup going into the seed round and getting a seed round. They were right about that 30,000 mark. They were making 30,000 euros a month of recurring revenue. In the last 6 months, the COVID months, the really deep COVID months, that revenue number jumped to over 50,000 euro. That's a significant jump. That's almost doubling the revenue of seed companies. And we have we don't know this as a fact, but there's a lot of indications to that point to the fact that maybe some of these companies that were ready to raise A rounds or high seed rounds were doing a lot of extensions. So more mature companies with more revenues were still staying, doing other seed rounds, seed extensions, large seeds, instead of going to A rounds. And you can see that kind of an effect in some of the other data as well. Maybe not as pronounced, but you can see. The one surprise to me out of this data, including the Startup Wise Guys data, was that now basically the top quartile valuations in the Baltics are on par with United States. And investors are not stupid, right? I mean, we're not overpaying for stuff just because, like, wow, hey, Sveiks, they speak a cool language, so we'll give them more money. No, I mean, we have a model. We're doing this as a business. And in fact, a lot of the rounds now are led by outside investors that have seen the marketplace. They know exactly what's out there in the market, and they come here to buy because they see that it's an excellent value, even at those rates. So having that kind of confidence show from a lot of London and Silicon Valley investors, and just a whole breadth of various international investors, I think is an excellent vote of confidence about the Baltic startups.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear from you as well. And we were actually looking both last year and this year in our report on some of the active VCs who are from outside of the Baltics who are actually investing here. And definitely we can also see from our portfolio that there is more and more interest. And for example, when we even wanted to ditch demo days at some point, but now it's the other way around. That actually VCs be it from Austria, be it from Germany, be it from UK, and also Turkey and Denmark, who are are very active, they're actually asking us kind of like, hey, we're more and more interested in this region. So can we actually take a peek at what's going on? And this is also one of the reasons why we did this epic work with Startups to Watch list. And I am advertising it just because it took so much time. But actually, the reason why we put it together was because we want specifically investors from outside of our region see the variety, but also see kind of like what's happening, who's moving up, who's just emerging, and also kind of see some of the very interesting verticals that are very well represented here in the Baltics. But I will stop with the advertising break about how amazing Startups to Watch list is and go back to the initial question and looking at you, Dilek, and at you, Marius. So valuations and the change in maybe the mindset or approach.
Yes, as at the end of the year, more and more data coming from other countries, including Central Europe, and we are seeing this, that the rounds and cycles are changing there as well. So and we see as well that there is less syndication, more head-to-head competition, round size increased in valuation, and the term between rounds are getting shorter. So this is happening, and I think that the same is happening in the Baltics, and we're trying to find those easy answers. There are like no easy answers. I would compliment the Euro SA, but as well I would say that there is more micro funds are participating now. The seed, the VCs who are the seed, they were slighted more into early stage now. The tech-driven entrepreneur angels are participating more and more. Even those things like corp investors, family offices are now participating in those early stages, and there is more competition about this. That's how it's increasing valuations as well, and it should be like this, I think, because in the Europe, like in 2019, there was total 34 billion investment in tech startups, while in the US it was 3 times more. In the China it was 2 times more. And when you think about this global competition, and we want to compete in the global competition, we need to take this and to work on this increasing valuations, and we're part of this. So this is happening. I'm very glad about this as well. Not from like literally investors' perspective, but from ecosystem perspective.
Yeah, for investors' perspective, I think it's getting really competitive. But it's also good. Like, you need to do your job in a better and better way. Competition is good. So where I'm coming at, I'm assuming entrepreneurs are listening us, and I want to give them an idea of how the VCs are sourcing deals and how they are thinking about it. Obviously, when it was March or February, I was thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? I just raised a fund. I want to help entrepreneurs, and the world is changing. I think everybody went through that phase. But now Turkey, Europe, US, our last 3 deals are in US and specifically in Silicon Valley. And actually, I want to point out the 81, page 81 at your report. You are saying that what investors look for in a startup, no BS, good English, humbleness, high engineering competence, international oriented approach, hunger and ambition, good PR. If you have this, no matter where you are, like, the money is going to come and find you. But imagine you are an entrepreneur and you want to make a sale. Like, how do you do it? You create a funnel. You find potential customers. If you're a B2B SaaS, for example, let's say your potential customers are enterprise, like banks, I don't know, like whatever your segment is, you go and reach out to them. So I think in the world, what's happening now, in US, it became so competitive. Valuations are like over the roof. And you see so many muscles looking for deals at this part of the world because you have an amazing engineering power. And if you already have a good English and international mindset, you are already a good company. Your future is brighter. So I think you should think that way. With this data, a lot of people are going to be able to reach out to you. I'm sure after this report, they will get a lot of inbounds from a lot of investors. So where I'm coming at, I think at the epicenter of Silicon Valley, a lot of people are moving outside because it's so expensive. Valuations are up. So people are looking for more opportunities in places with the more reasonable prices for engineering talent. and with more loyalty for sure. And it's becoming an advantage actually. And as soon as you reach out to that global level, then you are at, I mean, you have so many big gap that you can jump on.
Yeah, that's definitely something we can see and hear already with our founders in the previous panel, that they said kind of the world is becoming in some way smaller and more accessible. And actually even in the accelerator investment scene, we have seen very interesting move that a lot of European startups are now participating in YC or 500 startups. We are of course a little bit kind of like, hey, give us back our startups. But on the other hand, as you said, competition is good, and it just means that you need to kind of really get your competitive advantage right. And also maybe that pushes also investors to do better reverse pitches and actually compete in the right way in the market, which is good for the founders. I wanted to ask also just one quick question, mostly to Marius and Irjo, about overall how if we compare the three countries, kind of what maybe the trends are that you saw. I touched upon it on super high level with the kind of no-brainer kind of observations, and I have one specific question coming from Latvia. As we can see that this year Latvia was kind of the funding activity comparatively was the lowest, even though Deal Room just published today that we're having like the best year ever. Estonia doesn't surprise me, but I would be very interested. What do you think about the ecosystem there? Because of course we see, for example, a lot more activity in the bigger rounds, and Lithuania has really kind of has picked it up in the last 2 years. And as a Latvian, I could say, damn, they got ahead of us. So I was wondering maybe a very quick comment of the three country comparison, and at least in terms of the funding and deals.
When we looked at the data as a whole, the trend in general, where Latvia plus Lithuania equals Estonia, is still there, which is, it keeps, every year that happens, it keeps surprising me, because I keep predicting again and again, and I'm wrong all the time, about how Latvia and Lithuania are going to catch up and surpass Estonia. I'll do it again. I still think Latvia and Lithuania, you have the universities, you've got great talent, you have original ideas. Sooner or later, you're going to catch up. And not even talking about the fact that you're 3 times bigger or 2 times bigger than us. But I think Latvia did drop off a little bit statistically, while it's good to see a lot of good deals in Lithuania. And that Lithuania has really had a solid, if you look at the past 18 months, really a lot of quality deals, a lot of big startups. Obviously, Vinted, did their part. Eustace, and we in fact invested in Eustace's next startup, Curio. It was our first investment in our portfolio. But to look a little bit closer, more granular, specifically, for example, on the Estonian market, I see that there are enormous number of very high quality seed deals, which bodes extremely well for future A rounds. We've had a bunch of startups coming off of sort of this creative destruction concept, right? That from TransferWise, from Pipedrive, there's a lot of successful entrepreneurs who have gotten the know-how, have learned the skills, have seen the game, have been part of a unicorn, now even have an exit in their pocket and some money to put into startups or their own startup. And in fact, they're doing it. People, thankfully, in Estonia are not buying islands and, living there forever. They're actually excited about continuing their careers, maybe even more excited to have their own and new startups. And this is such a virtuous cycle. And we can see fantastic seed rounds coming up with very experienced founding teams, which means that there's going to be a lot of quality startups coming and future unicorns in Estonia. The same, I think, coming out of Vinted and in Lithuania, having more and more those kinds of successes bodes well then for future startups as well. The one thing that can be really then noticed also, though, in the Estonian market is the additional competition in deals, especially at the pre-seed level. because I remember when the Pipedrive deal happened, I think the next day in the newspaper it said, well, we have 50 more millionaires today. So, a lot of that money is going to find its way into startups. And so the competition for pre-seed deals has gotten pretty fierce. That's a good thing, because if there are good deals, the money's getting put to work. That's fantastic, right? And also, I think more and more we're beginning to see this pan-Baltic attitude that Estonian angels are also looking at Latvia and Lithuania, and that even the teams are beginning to work together, whereas Estonians, Latvians, and Lithuanians in the same startup. And that's all very, very positive. We're way too small here to be playing solo. We got to make a band, right? I mean,
yeah. If Cristobal was here, he would say,
we are the Beatles.
Yeah, if Cristobal was here, he would be like, when is the Baltics, United States of Baltics being launched? Yeah, definitely.
I would probably add to what you were saying. I was trying to find the answer. Why it should be Lithuania plus Latvia equals Estonia, right? I was trying to find the answer by doing this research because I'm from Lithuania. It's always very curious for me to find it. But it's true, and it makes sense, and it's all about the previous unicorns, and it's very connected. I was trying to find this even if we take the first unicorn from Estonia and the last unicorn, right? The Skype and the Pipedrive. So it's very connected. Like if we take Jan Tallinn, the co-founder of the Skype, he invested like 130 million already in the startups, up to 200 startups. If we take Niklas, another co-founder who founded the Skype, who founded co-founded the Atomico, right? That later invested in the Pipedrive. So we know how it's connected, in between connected. So those 15 years, the unicorns are raising another unicorns. And like in Lithuania, yes, we do have Vinted, not yet exited yet, but become unicorn. We have an official Tesho, and the founders investing now, but from personal wealth, not like exited now. And it's a really good point set about the Pipedrive exit. Yes, it's about 50 new business angels, entrepreneur angels who are going to invest their tickets in the startups, and it's going to boost and to raise another unicorn. That's how it's working. And probably this is the answer. So I really wish Latvia and Lithuania more unicorns, more exits, and that's how it's going to boost. And there is no equal. We're going to be real pan-Baltic there.
Yeah, and then we should just have a different benchmark now, right? But actually, it's I just wanted to kind of strengthen what you're both are saying. And for example, a very interesting trend that we have even seen with our own Wise Guys family is that our first exit, Vital Fields from Estonia, both of the co-founders have actually ever since the exit become also investors. For example, in Startup Wise Guys as a fund, and also some of our well-performing startups, they don't even have to be unicorns. For example, Estate Guru, after one of our annual alumni gathering, have invested in other startups from Wise Guys family. And definitely when we were looking, I'm Latvian, so I'm the sad representative here today, and I definitely hope that the last quarter of 2020, thanks to Mikus, Giraffe 360 and other deals, is going to make me a bit prouder. But what we can see that I see it as two differences. One is this almost self-fulfilling prophecy, right? This kind of what success does to you, the confidence, for example, especially in Estonia, when I see this 18-year-old founder who come to pitch, and you're like, you're 18, you're already building a company, you're actually doing it good. To me, it's incredible. And I think you can only have it when you, for a significant period of time, have had these role models. And I think that definitely I would attribute also maybe even the diversity aspect in Lithuania, having more female founders, actually, to Vinted being led by Milda, right? So you have this female role model there out in the market. And if I look at Latvia, one thing that I think we're going to have them soon, and I know that also Printify and Printful are really making a mark, and we have some awesome fintech companies. So I think it's there, and actually also for Lithuania, they were very low 2 years ago, and they have done this jump. So I kind of think the jump is ahead of us as well in Latvia. But I definitely see big difference in business angel activity, and this is something that we definitely see that. an amazing value in Estonia, and we have seen it with any batch that we have in the Baltics or even right now outside. This group of tech entrepreneurs who have this surplus money, and even our startups say when you pitch to them, it's beauty. It's so easy to talk to these investors because they have been through the same route. They have been maybe even through harder times when money was not that available in this region. And I think right now there's a lot of pre-seed actually money, while still the accelerator funds are doing their last investments next year. So definitely the business angels and overall how the ecosystem functions, that really impacts it. And I even saw that some of the ecosystem representatives are listening to us right now. I see Lisi commenting also on Facebook, and I definitely could say that there's a lot to learn from our region, but still within our region, how to create this supportive and very collaborative system. And being with one kind of like leg in Estonia, also and one leg in Lithuania, and still being in Latvia, I could say that's very interesting to see this development. And I think it's kind of investors and business angels play and accelerators play kind of one part, then are the founders themselves, then are the support organizations, and of course the academics and corporates, kind of how all of that comes together. But definitely I'm envious for Estban and Estonian business angels, and it's amazing to have more and more of these smart people who actually want to make this kind of next wave. And I think Estonia probably already is in the kind of like at least second, if not third wave of this kind of like entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
Actually, as an outsider, maybe I can collaborate there. Outsider who wants to get into the ecosystem and understand more, I think you have done an amazing job about like getting the friction lower and lower for an entrepreneur. Even a lot of Turkish entrepreneurs or other like Romanian entrepreneurs, I see them moving to Estonia actually. And you already mentioned, Yurio, I think being a small country makes it such a big difference. I've been complaining about it for Turkey for a long time. 80 million people, amazing engineers, but because it's 80 million, I think it's a mid-sized market problem. They start to focus on local market, and you end up staying at local market, and that's such a big advantage for your region, I think. And also the psychological level, you already have those success stories. Which is funny. I always try to introduce our entrepreneurs to ones who have been there and who have been successful. When I organize those dinners, what they say to me first, if he has done it or she has done it, I think I can do it too. Like, I think that's the psychological thing. If those are doing, because I can feel, I can touch them. They are humble, normal people. I think in Silicon Valley, that was the thing which has been pushing the ecosystem a lot, because when you are there, you feel like you can do anything in the world. So I think that's a big advantages for your region.
Yeah, the power of small, like we have to, like we have to call it, I guess. But definitely, as you said, right? When you don't have this home market, you just have no choice. Mm-hmm. And I think that whenever somebody outside of Baltics asks me about this region, this is the first thing that I say. Well, you cannot sell anything reasonable to 6 million. Besides, out of those 6 million, how many are actually your target audience, target customer? Especially if you are in B2B segment where you maybe have 3 banks to sell to, and probably you will only sell to one because the other ones don't want the same solution, right? So yeah, I would say I see some positive comments coming in from many people. Hi Olga. Hi, Lisi. Hi, others watching us. It's unbelievable that you're still with us as we are 1.5 hours into already this conversation. I'd love to wrap it up, and I think we have touched upon so many cool things, and I hope there's a lot of insights for our audience to actually still search in both of these reports that we have been talking about. But we actually made a promise to ourselves when making this year's Baltic Startup Scene report to also look a little bit in the future. So we were asking in our startup scene survey to people how do they look at 2021 and actually 3 years or 5 years in a distance. And one thing that we found out is that we definitely saw a lot of optimism and positivity, and especially if we look at startup founders. And we were internally discussing that probably kind of comes together with being a startup founder, right? Because you have been, I'm sorry, I'm going to use a rude word, through so much shit then dealing with the pandemic is just one of the bumps in the ride. I wanted to ask all three of you, how do you think what future is going to bring us? Maybe both short term, but also longer term, be it on the work life, be it on investments, be it maybe on the global versus local things. Just like the floor is yours. How do you see future? What's the outlook ahead?
Well, I'll kick it off. I'm really optimistic about the future. First of all, I think this COVID period has sort of leveled the playing field for the Baltics, because the companies that didn't have the money to be flying around all over the world, big budgets for taking customers to dinners and lunches and buying them Super Bowl tickets and whatnot, hey, no problem. Now we're all even, right? We're all equal in the eyes of Zoom. So I think the Baltics have gotten sort of even, and it looks like they've learned how to do sales long distance and stuff. And that is sales is one of the things that we've always been lacking in this region. So this kind of a leg up, a little bonus practice that they got. And for Baltic salespeople, the extra distance is a plus, not a minus. So they like being able to do it through Skype and Zoom. It's been a good thing, actually. And of course, I think there's better times ahead in terms of health. So when we go back, people will go back with even more energy and really appreciate those trips instead of, oh, damn, I have to fly again, right? It will be actually a positive thing. And Zane, for you, I think there's going to be great news coming from Latvia. Keep your eye on one of our portfolio companies, Aerones. They're doing just absolutely mind-blowing things in robotics. But Lithuania is not going to be far off, because Giraffe 360, that was here earlier, I see their investor reports, and they are shiny. They are beautiful, happy, lucky people there. They're doing very, very well in London. And Interactio, our very own Zoom. The whole world signed up for Interactio over COVID. It's going to just knock people's socks off the next round that Interactio will do. And I can't complain about Estonia either. Hey, one of the last rounds was Verif. And I truly believe that could be Estonia's next unicorn. So, hey, that's 3 unicorns for our portfolio, I figure. Things are good.
See, you're chasing unicorns. We're saying that we're growing big sustainable companies that give input to the ecosystem. But yeah, totally. And happy to hear also about potential good news. And we actually also see a lot of very good positive movements in our portfolio. And let's see about exits. We're not chasing them that much, but actually some big rounds already dropped in beginning of this year. And actually for us, I remember the moment when kind of the lockdown started. We were like, oh wow, what's going to happen? And then we're like, well, we keep on investing because we made a promise to those startups. And actually, I can't remember, was it March or April? We accidentally noticed that we're listed among 100 most active investors globally in Crunchbase. So I was like, boom! I think we were 41 or something. Of course, it changes, but imagine that it happened right at the time when the whole world was on standstill, and there was this. I even remember this Excel spreadsheet traveling around where investors could mark if they're investing at all. So actually the European founders would know where to invest. And actually having launched in Italy through COVID, which was kind of like for us, and we just raised 1.2 million in crowdfunding campaign for our Italy batches. So we're definitely also I share the optimism with you, even though I would say on a personal and human level, we are still, I think, experiencing challenges even in the relatively relaxed Baltic bubble, which actually even opened up in summer, right? We had such a normal summer, even with latitude 59 happening. But yeah, so Marius, Dilek, what's your outlook ahead?
Yeah, so still interesting what you were saying, but I would say that this future is happening now. In all the global arena that we're seeing, the Airbnb IPO rocket, flying the Slack acquisition by Salesforce, even today's news about the Bolt everywhere, it's happening, that nothing is stopping, nothing is waiting for 2021. It's proceeding, and probably it's proceed like this. Yes, it's a dark months are coming regarding the restrictions and so on, but everything about the business, about the ecosystem is moving on, and I believe it's going to move on. I took a quick glance about the prospecting in the pandemic. Those global players like Amazon added to 400 billion in market cap, the Microsoft 250, the Apple 219, right? The Netflix, Shopify, Zoom, 50 billion in market cap added. As well, like small apps like Calm increased the valuation to 2 billion by pandemic period. So it's an opportunity. I don't want to sound like cliche, but that there's a lot of prospecting in this. This thing is not going to change like in 1 month or 2 months. It's continuous. So I believe, as even here at Wise Guys, we had four accelerator programs this year, and we're planning more for the next year and more for the next year, right? We're getting more and more applications. We have more and more ambitious, and we see the same in ecosystem. So the things change. There's a lot of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, discomfort, but it should be like this. It's the new reality, and that's how we proceed. Yeah.
Perfect. And maybe I can add, on the investment level, I'm so opportunistic. Maybe it's our natures as an investors or entrepreneurs, let's say. But on following up with Euro's comment on sales side, I'm a big preacher of product-led growth. I think Pipedrive is one of the biggest example of that. I think that's changing the way that software is sold all around the world. So that's a good opportunity for our regions. And also having a good product is really critical there. But on the human level, after seeing BioNTech's vaccine, to be honest, I feel much more optimistic about the future of this industry. I know on the stock exchange, the technology is like flying off the roof. We are seeing all those things. But also, I really want to see it at the seed and early stage too. Hopefully that will happen by seeing all those exits and that money coming back and spillover effects. So I'm all optimistic.
I'm almost missing somebody who would say something like, nah, otherwise we're like continuing with the startup bubble. But I would tend to think that those we are here, probably those mostly who are listening and the ones we have covered in our reports are actually that part of the society who definitely looks at challenges with more of like, hey, what can I do with this, right? And I think the panel with the founders definitely showed it in different aspects, how things that they thought might have killed their business, actually they figured how to turn it around, maybe sometimes even just in 1 month. So that's definitely, when I talk with people who are not from the startup bubble, I see that this mindset of kind of being risk aware, but also able to deal with it without kind of losing yourself in it is definitely something that puts the whole startup scene apart. And I actually see this difference, and I know some people from Nordics are also watching and listening to us. And even though you are ahead this year, we were kicking your ass year before. So I think that let's see how that equation with the Nordics and Baltics looks like. But definitely, I can tell that Baltics are unique in the sense that we have this kind of post-Soviet heritage, but we're also very Nordic, and especially I think Estonia, both in aesthetics, but also approach to things. But still, we don't have the financial cushion and the social system where you can just like lay around and wait for better times. So I think it actually puts us in a very good place. And I would go back to this small but mighty and say that sometimes being small, especially in this kind of situations, gives you an incredible foundation to actually move and adapt very fast. And I can't finish without mentioning the project that I loved so much this spring, and it definitely saved my mental health, was actually Hack the Crisis movement. And I think that was something so typical of Baltics and especially Estonia. Like you close the country's borders, and I think less than 6 hours you have a hackathon launched, which is, hey, how can we hack this thing? And then big thumbs up to Callum, our former MD from Startup Wise Guys, and the whole Garage 48 and Enterprise Estonia team, who were kind of like the initiators of this movement, and also to anybody who picked it up. And I'm very proud that Latvians were like, we didn't wait. We launched something on Tuesday already. We're like, okay, hackathons can happen on working days too if you actually are in a lockdown and you have to find some solutions. And I'm very happy to actually witness that not only this one little movement here turned into something that was global, culminating with the global hack, but also that a lot of people said, yeah, hackathons, what can come out of it? Well, guess what? For example, we have just invested in one of those companies who came out of the Latvian hack in our sustainability batch, and I see others are actually moving and doing big and good and active things. So definitely. Lots of love from me on this one, and we have our mentors even listening to us, Hayasta. But I will wrap it up with this. So a reminder, there are 2 amazing reports out there. One is ours, startupwiseguys.com/report. Irjo, if you want, you can, maybe Louise already have put it in the comments, but please advertise yours as well, and it can be found, I assume, on Change Ventures website.
On our website, just top right-hand corner, anybody can have the report. And I second the hackathons are the new singing festivals.
Totally, that's such a good comparison. So definitely still read the reports. We'll be doing a lot of additional insights and panels in new year around this, and we actually will also print our report, because I can imagine that 84 pages of a PDF will kill anybody who is not very in love reading on
or
screen.
your office manager will kill you if you print it out in color.
Exactly. And so definitely I'm just saying out loud, but basically we will be distributing the reports through some of the ecosystem organizations, and also hopefully in spring we will resume to some hybrid events. I'm really looking forward to that, and definitely we'll be grabbing reports. Yes, and Gode in the background, who's still in our backstage, is telling me we have to mention that Crunchbase is actually coming out with a blog, first time about Baltics, actually looking at the diversity. So we made a promise to ourselves when we kicked off this report, let's get out of the Baltic bubble. Having Dilek here already was one of ways doing that, and actually involving partners who are way beyond outside of our borders was the second one. So definitely that's a lot of checkboxes, I think, still filling up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for participating, Dilek, Irjo, and Marius. It was amazing to have you here. This panel is in a recording, actually available still on YouTube channel of Startup Wise Guys. So if anybody joined us later, you can still watch it and zoom back what the founders were saying in the first part of the panel. And let's read the reports and celebrate the big news coming in about the Baltic startups and wait for new ones. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye.